Humanity. You have it, I have it, I think. But how do you define humanity? How do you define such a thing that has been questioned for years with no definite answer? Well, you can't. Okay, well, you generally can't. So just pick an answer and roll with it. So here I am, rolling with it, letting the wheel decide my fate. Let's see what I'm making this video about today. Okay, cool. 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Now, I like playing video games, which also means that I'm in debt, but that also means that I get to experience incredible stories through what is possibly the most immersive format of entertainment, where you physically do the actions and feel the fruits of your labor. That's so good. Oh my god, that took me 30 minutes! Now, is this the most basic version of Rush E to play on a piano? Yes, but it's the fact that I still strived and reached the goal I placed upon myself. I reached what I deemed as greater, which was oddly enough playing Rush E on a piano in VR, and after looking into the video games that I play all the time, I realized that the same strive for success, for greater, is seen in pretty much everything. An example of this is actually not through a video game, but through a TV show based on one, that being Cyberpunk Edgerunners, which I will discuss with minimal spoilers and of which I am still recovering from. Throughout the show, our main character David lives in Night City, a world where those who are not so lucky live life in a world of complacency, where everyone is simply living to live while living to die. They are sort of like dead corpses waiting for their inevitable deaths to come, whether that be through natural or unnatural causes. David, the opposite of this, strives to be a better man than he was each day before him. This eventually leads him to want to become a better edge runner, someone who does crime gigs for cash, while eventually changing to want to become greater in his physical capabilities to protect and eventually save the person he loves, albeit at an extreme cost. What's actually really cool about the show is the definition of greater changes within David, yet still has an overarching meaning. It changes from David wanting to be the greatest edge runner to having the greatness of his loved one back in his life. And there is the overarching meaning of being the greatest self that he can be, with either being the greatest edge runner having his physical definition of greatness by his side, helping to contribute to that meaning of greatness. I am starting to hate that word. But ultimately, this extreme cost strips him of his humanity, strips him of his chance at greatness, and strips him of his chance to be his best self. Now, let's connect this to the Mario movie. We all love the Mario movie. Why? Because Bowser has Riz. And I mean, he is a Riz god. Kidnapping a girl and holding her friends hostage just to force her into marrying you? Why didn't I think of that? But in reality, Bowser does want greatness through the same methods as David, with gaining what he deems as his physical definition of greatness, that being Princess Peach in this case, and for David, it is his loved one. Bowser, despite not being human, shows the most amount of humanity throughout the entire movie, where his desire to be greater is satiated from being loved more and more by others, with Peach just being a method to get that love. Bowser, much like David, also sees himself as greater when in a form of power, but with Bowser, it is not the actual physical power David strives for. It is the power to rule the Mushroom Kingdom. This is something he gets by obtaining the greatness that is Princess Peach, which indirectly makes himself greater, which then cements the idea that humanity strives to be greater for oneself wants and needs. It's not as in-depth as Cyberpunk Edgerunners, but it has Jack Black, so it's okay. What doesn't have Jack Black, which makes it infinitely worse, are the fantastic games God of War and its sequel, God of War Ragnarok. The game's two main characters are Kratos, a god of war known for his ruthless bloodshed, now turned father and wants to give his son a normal life, and Atreus, Kratos' son who wants to prove himself to his father, all while lightening the burden placed on his father. It's a bit more complicated than that, but for simplicity, we'll leave it there. Throughout the games, Kratos is consistently seen to be teaching his son life lessons while also trying to cover up his own dark path, wanting to be seen as a greater father and a greater role model. This is contrasted by Atreus' strive to be a greater son, both in his abilities to act and in being able to support his father. The two ideas conflict, but work together not just to create the story of the games, but to create the idea of striving for greatness in one's own individual ways. Even though their greatness is in opposite directions, they still want to be a better version of themselves to better each other, contributing to how greatness isn't just something about self-gain like in the past two examples, but can extend to the love that one shares for another. But what is not so wholesome is the gruesome hellscape we call Elden Ring. This game is the equivalent of being stuck in a mental asylum where you willingly paid the bill for your own torture instead of having a good time. It's hard, you're supposed to die a lot, but being on theme with this video, there is humanity within the game, more accurately, within you. You, the player, constantly aim for greater by beating the next boss, getting a bajillion runes to level up, or googling guides because you are lost and have zero idea of what to do next. Elden Ring is all about how you, the player, get back up after each and every death to ever so slowly become greater, proving that video games themselves don't just have humanity, but you do too. So congrats, you're human! Here's a cookie. Now let's go back to the beginning of this video and just notice something. I took 30 minutes of failing to achieve this victory, but that isn't reflected in just a small task and is seen throughout all of the video games discussed and is seen throughout our lives. All of the examples in this video have humanity and yet are different because the definition of a humanity is constantly changing. The definition of greatness is always changing from person to person. For Kratos, greatness comes from the ability to be a better person than he was before and to help Atreus live a normal life. But for David, it's not about living a normal life, it's about being the strongest version of himself even at the cost of others. The fact is that both are striving for something greater, even in the opposite directions, which therefore means that they are both great representations of humanity. But I have to confess that throughout this entire video, I have been lying to you. I said that humanity is about striving for greatness, when in fact, it's about relentlessly striving for greatness. It's that moment that when you fall, you pick yourself back up to fight again. Failure after failure, death after death, always rebuilding your wings again and again to take on the same challenge one more time. It's when you die 50 gazillion times in Elden Ring and still decide to continue your torture because you, as an individual, want to be greater than the challenges this game places on you. And let's look at the real world and how we fail constantly, yet still always do our best to ensure a greater future. Whether that be as a group or as individuals, we always try to bring improvement. Each invention created throughout human history has always been about progression, about reaching something greater. At the end of the day, we share a lot in common with video games, that being humanity. Humanity. You have it. I still may or may not have it. Video games have it. Almost everyone has it. So when you wake up in the early morning wanting to die inside as your alarm clock blares, just remember that you are waking up to be greater and to always strive to be better. I think my friend Homelander said it the best.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.